All right, Adhiraj, you're all booked for your driving lesson on Friday, January 9th at 9 a.m. Mike will meet you, and you'll work on preparing for your road test, especially building those parking skills.
Driving schools are bleeding students to competitors who answer the phone first, and most instructors have no clue that it's even happening. Today, I'm walking you through building an AI booking system that captures every single inquiry, and it's easily worth $1,000 to $2,000 monthly for any driving school. Hey everyone, it's Adhiraj here, and quick shout out to the member in my school community who requested this build. This is exactly why I run that community. Y'all tell me what industries you're working with and what your clients need. I build it out and show everyone how to replicate it. So if you're landing clients in different niches and need custom automation workflows, join the school. I also help troubleshoot your specific client builds, review your implementations, and make sure that you're charging what these systems are actually worth. By the time we're done, you'll have an always-on AI receptionist that handles student inquiries with patience and clarity while systematically filling up your lesson calendar. This catches students who are calling after hours or during peak lesson times when you're literally driving and can't touch your phone. If you're into automation workflows like this, smash that subscribe button. We build these for different industries every week. So let's start off by jumping into Vapi. You can access and create an account on Vapi. It's totally free by going to vapi.ai, and once you're here, click on Create Assistant, and then you can name it anything you want, but we're going to name it Driving School Agent, and leave this as blank template, and then click Create Assistant. For our model, we're going to use GPT 4.1 Mini, and I've tested all of them. This one is super fast, cost effective, and it's going to handle those nervous students with the right tone. Leave this as assistant speaks first. This is basically what the agent does upon being called. So either it's going to wait for the user, or it's going to speak first, or with a model generated message, or it's going to speak first with whatever we tell it to, which we're going to describe right here, right? So this is crucial for driving schools because people calling you are often anxious, right? Maybe it's a kid, maybe it's a parent worried about their kid's safety, or a teenager stressed about failing their test twice already. And so you want that immediate reassurance. So that instant connection is going to really matter when someone's already nervous about learning to drive. So now we're going to scroll down to our system prompt area and then delete what's already here. Go to my school community and grab the master prompt file right here. Go ahead and copy what's over here. Go back to your system prompt and then paste it. And so basically this prompt is converting the AI into an experienced driving school coordinator. It's going to handle the student qualification across different experience levels. So complete beginners who've never been behind the wheel, permit holders preparing for their test, licensed drivers needing refresher courses, or even international drivers who are adjusting to the local roads, right? It's going to collect 3 pieces of information that every instructor needs, which are their current experience level, their license status, and what they're trying to accomplish with these lessons. It's going to train the AI to be patient and reassuring because, as I said, the people calling these driving schools are often genuinely super nervous or embarrassed about needing help. This prompt teaches the AI to respond with phrases like, it's completely normal, everyone starts somewhere. And so it balances warmth with efficiency, which is exactly what these conversations require. Now go ahead and click publish. And now at this point, you've got a fully functioning receptionist, but let's circle back to that first message, which we've actually coded up in this prompt. So you can adjust this to whatever you or your client needs. Go back up here and then paste this in first message. Let's publish this. So now we're going to give this assistant real capabilities through 3 custom tools, which we've actually configured in our prompt. Qualify, availability, and book appointment. So each tool triggers at a specific conversation moment based on what the student needs and what information the AI has already gathered. You can think of this like 3 stages of converting a nervous caller into a confirmed lesson on your instructor schedule. So now let's understand the tool call flow. The brilliance is the sequence. The AI doesn't randomly fire these tools. It follows a logical path based on the conversation flow. First off, it's going to qualify the student by understanding their experience and goals. Then it's going to check instructor availability for their preferred times. And then finally, it's going to book the exact slot that they confirm. Each tool is going to systematically build on the data from the previous interaction, creating a super smooth experience that feels like talking to a real person who cares. So let's go ahead and create the first tool, which is Qualified Driving Student. Go to Tools, Create Tool, Custom Tool, and you want to name this Qualified Driving Student. This is going to capture the student fundamentals, and it's going to activate after the caller explains their situation. And we're going to need 3 parameters over here. Now, scroll down and then toggle this to JSON. Go to my community and then grab the file over here, which can be master qualify. You can paste this in here. And then toggle this back to visual. Oh, hold on. Let's click save, apply, and save. Toggle this back. Okay. So as I said, we need these 3 parameters. The experience level is going to be a string which identifies where they're starting from, and the AI is going to determine this through the conversation. If someone says, I just got my learner's permit last week, it knows that they're a beginner. If they say, I've been driving for years and I'm uncomfortable with highway merging, it knows that it's an experienced driver needing ultra-specific skills. AI categorizes naturally from how people actually describe themselves. License status is a string capturing their current licensing situation. Something like learner's permit, no license yet, full license, or international license. This matters because it affects what kind of lessons they need and whether they can legally practice between sessions. Then we have the lesson goal, which is another string and records what they're trying to achieve. It's not some formal category, but just their actual words. Things like pass my driving test, learn parallel parking, prepare for the DMV exam. The AI is going to extract this from however they describe what they need. And it's important to note that it's going to fill these fields out by actively listening and pulling relevant details. Your system prompt already taught it what questions to ask and how to match answers to these parameters. When someone describes their driving background and what they want to learn, the AI recognizes, okay, now I've got everything I need for qualification, and then fires this tool automatically. Next, we're going to build out our availability tool. So click on Create Tool again, Custom Tool. And this is going to be called Availability Driving Lesson. Click Save, go to the community, and grab Master Availability Driving Lesson. Just going to have 1 parameter here. Click Apply, and then Save. So the only parameter we have here is search date, which is a string in an ISO format, which represents when they want their lesson. Usually it's going to be within the week, maybe even today or tomorrow, but it could even be next week depending on their schedule. This tool activates after the qualification, which is that previous tool we just made, completes. The AI at this point has all the student details and now needs to show available lesson times. It's going to query your calendar through n8n, which is our backend. We're going to get to that, and then get back a list of genuinely open slots based on when your instructors actually have availability. The system prompt tells the AI exactly when to use this. So our AI totally understands the progression, which is qualify first, then schedule second. Now let's move on to our 3rd and final tool, which is book appointment driving lesson. Hit save, go to the community, and grab the master book appointment driving lesson file. Scroll down, toggle this to JSON, and then paste this in here. Click apply, save. And then if you're following along, toggle this back to visual. And so over here we have 3 parameters. First, we have the student name, which is a string, which is going to be their full name, which is the AI is going to ask for directly. Then we have the start date time and end date time. Start is just an ISO format string when the lesson begins, and end date time is an ISO format that marks when it ends, typically an hour later, and we can configure this more in depth inside our n8n workflow. Now the AI has already showed them the available options at this point, and they've picked one. Now it has everything required to create the calendar appointment, which is their name, the time they selected, and from the earlier qualification tool, all their experience level, license status, and lesson goal details. What makes this super powerful for driving schools is when the AI books this lesson, and it then grabs that qualification data from earlier in the conversation and attaches it to the calendar event. Your instructor shows up knowing exactly what to focus on and what materials to bring. So now we need to assign these 3 tools to our assistant. So go over here and click on Tools and select those 3 that we just created. Click Publish. So a really important point here, these 3 tools, we did it sequentially, right? And so why do these sequential tools matter? These 3 tools create a natural conversation rhythm that actually mirrors how your best receptionist would actually handle these student calls. First, understand where they're at and what they need, then find a time that works, and finally confirm the appointment with complete context. The caller will never feel like they're just filling out a rigid form. It just feels like they're talking to someone helpful who's getting them scheduled efficiently. Now let's go ahead and attach a phone number to our agent. Click on phone numbers and create a new number and just do an area code, any area code that you'd like. Hopefully it's local to your school or your client. And let's use 973, this one's available. You want to name this driving school agent. And let's scroll down here to inbound settings and then select driving school agent, click save. And so at this point, now we have a live driving school inquiry line. If you call it right now, the AI is going to respond and you can have a full conversation with it, even though nothing's going to book yet, since we haven't constructed out the backend. But it's going to engage naturally with patients, which is impressive considering most schools are still using automated menus that frustrate callers immediately. Now let's go ahead and build out our backend. Open n8n. And if you have a new account, you're going to have a blank canvas, which is totally cool. You don't need to build this from scratch. Go ahead to my community and grab master driving school, and then just hit command C, everything in this file, and then do command V. And then you'll have the full workflow as you see it right here, right? So the complete workflow is going to load for you. So now let me break down each component so you understand how to customize this for different schools or add features like SMS reminders to students or instructor notifications. First off is our webhook, right? This is where all the information enters our system. Every request from your AI receptionist arrives here. When you create this webhook in n8n, you're going to get something like this URL, and this production URL is actually super important to us. We want to copy this, go back to Vapi, go to our agent that we've created over here, and then we want to go to messaging and then the server URL. It's going to be over here, and server URL, so then paste that. Hit publish. And while we're here, scroll down here, go to server messages and uncheck everything except for tool calls. And this just dictates whenever we're going to call our backend. And we don't need anything else but tool calls right now. So unselect everything else. And this is also a good safety measure for efficiency, so you're not wasting calls to your backend, so you can get pretty costly. Okay. Now at this point, your backend is now connected to Vapi, right? What arrives every time a tool executes is essentially a structured JSON containing several critical pieces. You're going to get a message tool calls array, which is how Vapi packages that tool name and all the data that the AI collected. You're going to get message tool calls ID, which is the tool call ID that tells n8n the response for the specific request back to Vapi. You're also going to get a function name, which identifies what tool fired, which we're going to go over in the next step over here. It's going to be one of those three functions, right? We're going to have function arguments, which is an object containing all of the details like experience level, lesson goals, or the student name and appointment time. And finally, you're also going to get the customer's phone number, which is the caller's phone number that you're going to need for lesson reminders. And so this webhook is the whole foundation. If this breaks, then everything breaks. And so you want to triple check that your production URL, not your test URL, is linked to your Vapi. And it's going to it should match this node exactly. You want to configure it to the post method. You can name this whatever you want. And you want to set the mode to respond to webhook node because we need to send the data back to Vapi after processing. Now next up is our switch node. And this node manages traffic through your workflow, right? It's going to read which tool fired, which is going to be one of those three that we just created. And then the setup is going to use these three outputs, each with a specific condition checking that message tool calls function name I just mentioned before. Output 1 is going to check whether it's qualify, then availability, and then output 3 is going to check book appointment driving lesson. You can think of this like a sorting center. One webhook receives all the incoming data, but different tools need different processing, right? When a caller describes their driving experience and the AI needs to check lesson openings, Vapi is going to fire availability driving lesson. The webhook is going to catch it, the switch is going to read it, and it's going to send it to output 1 where the calendar checking happens. When a caller describes their driving experience and the AI needs to check lesson openings, Vapi is going to fire the availability tool, the webhook is going to catch it, and the switch is going to read it and then send it to output 2. Same caller confirms the time slot, Vapi is going to fire book appointment driving lesson, the switch is going to route it to output 3, and this is where the appointment creation happens. This routing system is how the entire workflow understands what action to take based on where the conversation currently is. Now let's move on to the first flow, which is qualify lead. This is a super simple node. We just respond with lead qualification noted. The AI is going to call this after it's asked all the questions that we've told it to ask, and it's gathered all the information that we need to book the appointment. Now let's move on to the check availability flow, which is after qualifying, then we need to check availability. What times do we have available that we can offer them? So first up, we have the get calendar node. When the AI checks availability and the switch routes it, the first action we take is retrieving your instructor's calendar. That's this calendar node, and you want to connect your Google account over here or your instructor's account, have it configured to get many, which retrieves every event in a specific time window. Time's going to start at time min, which is the search date from the tool call, usually today at 8 a.m., and it's going to end at time max, which is the end of the same day. So if someone calls requesting a lesson today, it's going to pull all lessons that your instructors already have scheduled for today. If they ask for tomorrow, it's going to pull tomorrow's schedule. And now there's a critical setting called always output data that must be enabled. This means that if the calendar is completely empty with no lessons, n8n still passes valid data instead of crashing the workflow. An empty calendar just means that your instructors are fully available that day. Without this setting enabled, an empty calendar stops the entire workflow, which would be absolutely catastrophic. Now, the output of this is an array of appointments. Each one contains a start time, an end time, a summary, and a description. This all flows to the next node, which is a merge node, where we combine it with the webhook data. The merge node combines two data sources that both need to reach the next processing step. First is the Vapi tool call with the search date telling us what date they want. Next is the calendar results showing what's already booked that date. You definitely need both pieces before generating the available slots. The webhook tells us what day they requested, and the calendar is going to tell us what times are already taken. The next node, which is the code node, needs both to calculate what slots remain open. The merge is configured to combine by position, so if the webhook has one item and the calendar is one item, even if that calendar item is an empty array, they both become a single item with both datasets available. And this is essential for the next step where code execution happens. Now, next up is the code node, and this is where the intelligence lives. This is where we create potential lesson slots and filter out the ones that are already booked or conflict with existing appointments. This code node is going to return an object with tool call ID and the available slots array, and then that's going to flow to the next node, which transmits everything back to Vapi. And so this respond to webhook node transmits the available slots in the exact format that it expects. The format is JSON with tool call ID and the slot list structured as a results array. The exact structure Vapi wants looks like results containing an object with tool call ID and result. That result is a stringified JSON, not a nested object, because Vapi expects tool responses as strings. The respond to webhook handles this when you configure it to JSON mode with expression syntax. Vapi receives this, parses the available slots, and the AI is going to respond naturally to the caller with something like I have lesson openings at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. today. Which time works best for your schedule? When the caller confirms the time, then we hit the booking path. First up, we have another Google Calendar node, but this is for creating an event. It's going to create a new appointment, and the fields it populates are calendar, which is your driving school calendar ID, usually going to be your email or a shared instructor calendar. Start is going to be the start date time from the tool call, which is the slot that they picked, and end is going to be the end date time from the tool call, which is 1 hour later. The summary, which is over here, is going to be driving lesson followed by the client name, and the description is where it gets super interesting. So it's going to pull from multiple sources to create a full student snapshot. It's going to include student name from the book appointment driving lesson tool, the phone number from the webhook at message.customer.number, the experience level from the qualify driving student tool. There's a tricky part worth understanding here. The book appointment driving lesson tool only contains the student name and appointment times. It doesn't have access to experience level, license status, or lesson goal details. So where does all that information come from? It comes from the conversation history. The webhook includes message.artifact.messages, which is the complete call transcript. The code's going to search that array, find where the AI called qualified driving student earlier in the conversation. It's going to grab the arguments from that tool call and then extract the qualification data. The expression doing this looks complex, but makes sense when you actually break it down. So it searches the messages, filters it down to the tool calls, down to the exact tool call that we need, which is the qualified driving student, and then license status, and then the lesson goal, and then the experience level. right? So we make sure that your instructor is going to walk into that lesson prepared with the appropriate materials and knows exactly what to focus on. This is a massive advantage over traditional intake where the instructors get a name and a time with zero context about the student's background or goals. Then we have a respond to webhook node. This is going to send back a simple confirmation that says driving lesson or appointment successfully booked. Format is just an object with the result as a string. Vapi is going to receive this, and then the AI will respond with something super warm, as you will see in our demo. So the caller is going to feel taken care of, which matters enormously when they're nervous about driving. So we've covered just about everything. If you still have questions, feel free to drop it down in the comments or leave a post in my school community. Now let's run a live test. So turn this to active. So now our webhook will actually receive calls from Vapi. Go back to Vapi, go to phone numbers, and make sure you have your Google Calendar open.
Thanks for calling Los Angeles Driving School. This is Alex. Excited to help you get on the road. Are you looking to schedule some driving lessons?
Hey, I'm interested in driving lessons. I just got my learner's permit and I really need to pass my test in the next few weeks. I'm pretty nervous about parallel parking.
That's awesome. You're ready to tackle the test. Sounds like you've got your learner's permit and want to focus on passing the test, especially nailing that parallel parking. Have you done much driving yet, or are you mostly practicing parking and basic stuff so far?
Mostly practicing parking. I've driven a little bit.
Awesome. So you've got your learner's permit, some practice in with your family, and your main goal is to prepare for the road test, especially those tricky parking maneuvers. Let's get you booked with Mike for your first lesson. He's really patient and great at helping new drivers feel comfortable. Our lessons are about an hour long. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Great. What day and time work best for you?
Could we do tomorrow at 9 a.m.?
Perfect. The 9 a.m. slot tomorrow is available. Want me to lock it in for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. And what's your full name for the lesson?
Adhiraj?
All right, Adhiraj, you're all booked for your driving lesson on Friday, January 9th at 9 a.m. Mike will meet you, and you'll work on preparing for your road test, especially building those parking skills. Does that sound good?
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
Perfect. You're all set. Mike will give you a call before the lesson to confirm the pickup location and answer any questions. You're going to do great, and we're excited to help you become a confident driver.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. All right. So, real talk about why this system is an absolute game changer for these driving instructors, right? As you can see, it noted all the information relevant for my instructor to come to that meeting super prepared. Driving schools are missing student inquiries constantly. The instructor is literally in a car teaching, the office person is handling paperwork or on another call, and that missed string is $200 to $500 in potential revenue vanishing to whichever school answers first. And in this industry, the first contact usually secures the student because nervous learners want immediate reassurance. Your AI is going to answer that instantly no matter what. So you have zero missed inquiries ever, even at 8 p.m. when a teenager finally works up the courage to call. It's going to qualify students immediately by collecting experience level, license status, and goals. And this means that your instructors only see lessons with students who are serious and ready to book, not price shoppers. It's going to capture those critical details that prepare your instructors before lessons, so no more walking into a lesson blind, asking what's your experience level, when they could have known everything beforehand. It's going to book these lessons automatically by displaying actual available times from your calendar with zero double bookings and no scheduling conflicts. And it's going to operate 24/7 because students call whenever their anxiety about learning to drive or failing their test peaks. This solves a massively expensive problem for independent instructors and small driving schools. The setup cost is basically nothing versus hiring a full-time receptionist at $40,000 to $50,000 yearly, and you never lose another student to voicemail. So that's your complete AI driving school intake system, with Vapi handling the patient conversations with nervous students. We have n8n processing the qualification logic and calendar management, and then we have Google Calendar keeping your instructors organized with full student context attached to every lesson. If you want the full, complete workflow JSON, system prompt file, tool configurations, and full build breakdowns for other industries like HVAC, med spas, law firms, and home services, it's all in my school community. You can download the files, clone the workflows, and customize it for your clients and launch a working demo today. Plus, I personally help troubleshoot your client implementations and make sure that you're positioning these correctly. Link is in the description. Drop a comment, tell me what you want me to tackle next, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.